Hey, welcome to another episode of Andy's Chopping at the Bit, brought to you by Big Andy Media, the official sponsor of every Friday episode of Andy's Chopping at the Bit. So, this week I decided to change things up, go a little way from the traditional episodes, and go with sports. The reason I decided to go with sports, I'm not talking about any particular team or statistics. I'm talking about sports as a whole. So, essentially, not just talking about one team or talking about, my take on sports, whether it be playing, viewing, because it's actually changed quite a bit, really, just over the last 5, 10 years, even more so over the last 2 years. Um, so let me dive into that. And let me go back a little ways to really explain a little more. I, for most of my life, I still am a diehard sports fan as far as interest in watching, but it's changed a little bit as far as to what extent. And by that, I mean, when I was growing up, especially I'd say middle school, high school, definitely high school, um, I, when I watched sports, and it was a team that I cheered for, and for those who know me really well, even those who don't know me really well, but just know me, I am a very, very big Michigan State athletics fan. So not just football, not just basketball, not just hockey, literally Michigan State athletics. So soccer, women's volleyball, uh, across the board, big fan. And women's basketball, great job with them. Um, yeah, big fan across the board. And I remember going to games, and if Michigan State didn't do well, which back at that time, middle school and high school, Michigan State wasn't the greatest at football. Uh, I know they're struggling a little bit over the last few years as well, but back then, you're talking, let's see, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006. Well, actually, 2006, I was in college by then, but they were really, they build up your hopes only to fall short time and time again. It was almost tradition to lose at that point. At least the ones that you wanted to win, the big games. Uh, but it didn't make a difference for me. I still got angry every time we lost. Every time. And it wasn't just football. I mean, it was across the board. But I remember in 2005, I skipped a big choir concert. That was the inaugural Mona Shore Sailors Home Again performance, their show, and I missed it, knowing that I would take a hit on my grade because I had to see in person that Michigan State football game. And that particular game went to, I believe, double overtime because our field goal kicker couldn't make a kick. Yeah, I remember that very well in Spartan Stadium. And I went all out. I had, face paint, the whole works. Hair dyed green, white. Uh, and I was shaking with anger when we lost, like shaking with it. Because I didn't grasp at that point that it's just a game. And if I would have heard someone say what I just said, that it's just a game back then, that would have really made me mad. Even if it wasn't during a game. If someone just casually said, oh, it's just a game, I'd get mad. And there's people that did say that. Very good people, friends. And like I said, I'd get mad because I didn't. Like, you don't understand. It's more than just a game. Is it though? I think the reason I didn't understand it, one was, age, but you can't completely write it off on age and maturity. Because there's people older than I am that still go even more diehard than that when it comes to sports. But I'll cheer. I'll get some passionate debates, not like it used to be, but I keep it clean, try keeping it classier. Uh, but no, I'll talk about sports in depth. I remember a lot of statistics, and I dive deep when I analyze teams. Uh, but I, I I didn't always separate that it's just a game, because back then, I believe this is the big difference for me. Back then, things were still intense, but things were not as extreme as they are today. And I did a previous episode on extreme thinking, and that really ties into why my view on sports started to change. Because that extreme thinking was carrying a lot of people over to sports, and it was running off into sports, and it started making the events not as fun. And I'm not just referring to when my team loses. Um, I'm referring in general, even when I win, seeing fans for the team I cheer for act classless started making me upset. I can't control them, but I can control me. That's one thing I can control. And the last incident that I really, you know, went way too far was, you know, Michigan State football game. This would have been, what was that? 2018, I believe. Yes, 2018. Was it 2018? Yes, and we lost. I believe Michigan State lost to Michigan. And after the game, a Michigan fan, was overly celebrating, and allegedly hit them, um, out of partially because of anger, and the person wouldn't let me walk around them, and when they were yelling, some spit came out and hit me in the face, and I think that was what snapped, allegedly. I have to say allegedly for anything that may or may not have happened that I was not charged for. So, I went to way too far. I mean, the other person did as well, but I didn't have to do what I did. Being realistic, I didn't have to do that. I shouldn't have done that. And I think when it really started the big changing point in my head, because I started accepting it was a game, shortly after that, a lot more shortly after that, and I'd started it before that point, but the rivalries where I would still get too carried away with. But no, when there was it was before the shooting in East Lansing. It was, I want to say it was around the time of COVID, the pandemic, and I believe, no, it was before that. It was when John Beeline, his last year coaching Michigan basketball, and before that year he had to have open heart surgery, if I remember correctly. And I heard the story about how Tom Izzo, Michigan State's basketball coach, called him after the surgery and wished him well. And then again, after Michigan State, there was that shooting a couple years ago. Juwan Howard, who was at the time later on there, he was the Michigan basketball coach. He called Tom Izzo, and as far as showing support, and the university as a whole, University of Michigan did an um, amazing act of unity, solidarity, as far as how they responded. We had a basketball game, I believe that next weekend, and the fans, the support they showed, the players that on both sides, it really made things sink in for me that it is just a game. There's things that are more important than a game. There's things that are bigger than the game. Yeah, I like to give Michigan fans a hard time, but I'll tell you what, I would never, never wish harm as far as um, for someone disagreeing with me on a sporting event, win or lose, cheat or not. Um, it's not it's not called for as far as it's just a game. You know, games changing across the board, not just in college. That's I'm just using college as an example. Um, but with more and more people getting, I guess part of it's gambling, people getting involved financially. That envelope of extreme behaviors opening more and more towards the sports world, and it's starting to push me further and further away from the sports world. Don't get me wrong, uh, I love watching sports. Even when my team's not playing, I enjoy the game. I enjoy watching and analyzing the play, and you'll see me watching hockey regardless. And most of the time, I'm watching the goalies because I was a goalie myself, and so I'm scouting them for absolutely no one other than myself. I'm enjoying watching that, and so. But like I said, at the end of the day, I understand that it is just a game, and so carrying that over from just watching, it also goes with playing. I played a lot of sports growing up, and I don't know how many hockey players will remember this, the former teammates, but I know for certain my last year playing hockey, I remember saying it to a couple teammates. Actually, I said it to multiple ones, but um, I was so hungry for a win. I was willing, I wouldn't do it on the ice, but I was willing to trip up someone to increase our odds. Horrible sportsmanship, which coming from me being I hated fights when they were on the ice, and I hated dirty playing on the ice. For me to even consider that um, went against everything I, you know, everything that I was taught, everything I everything I preached. But there was a point where I was considering that, and it was crazy. Really, really is crazy. Um, never should some, like I said, never should someone be hurt over what's just a game. And that was where my thought was at that. You know, it I wanted to win, and the thought of losing, I wasn't used to losing. That was the problem. And even when I was done with hockey, when I stopped playing hockey and I'm scrambling, looking to do another sport that you know, partially because I was looking for a scholarship, partially just because I love sports so much, I had to do something. Um, I had the option of playing football, and I turned it down. I turned it down and chose to do cheerleading instead. And I really enjoy my decision because I had a lot of fun. I met some really good people, and I got to carry that over and do that at Michigan Tech as well. So, you know, and I got a whole new respect for cheerleading. It is a sport. Trust me, it is. It's not if it's not a sport, then neither is golf, neither is baseball. Just saying, uh, it's a sport. With that being said, I chose a big part of why I chose it over football was, well, back when I was in high school, our football team was not very good. Nowhere near where they're at now. They're now incredibly good. Last I heard, I want to say they're number one in the state as far as the rankings, but at least still top 10. They're really good, Mona Shores. But when I was in school, they weren't. They were horrible, and I didn't want to be on a losing team. I also knew that one person does not turn a team around. It's a team effort. And so I pardoned myself as far from that football team. I went on the sidelines because, you know, I actually felt there was more dignity on the sidelines. And one of the things I did when they scored a touchdown, I had to do push-ups, but I knew I didn't have to do many push-ups. There's one game where I did. We played Zeeland East, and I believe the score was 49-0, and I wasn't prepared because I'd never had to do push-ups the rest of the year. So, but that's how much my mindset was towards sports is win, win, win. Not much have fun. You're only fun if you win. And that's wrong. I shouldn't say it's wrong. That's not how I see it today. I don't feel that's right anymore. It is just a game. At the end of the day, everyone has to go home. And, and I'm going to touch on this real quick because this is just my stance, but I have to say it because it's on my mind. So I see people all the time in sports, and you see them praying, and that's fine. But what people pray for, I feel sometimes is a little bit. I'm not gonna say off, but this doesn't always make sense. People pray for a win, as if someone's not praying on the other side for a win, as if somehow God or your higher power will choose your side, your team, over the other team. I never saw. I just never saw purpose in that. I do believe in prayer, and I do pray. But when it comes to sports, if I'm going to pray, I would much rather pray for me to be able to go out there and do my best, for me and my team and everyone involved to play a good, hard-fought game and walk away injury-free, walk away with our health. Safety first, but also allow me to perform to the best of my ability that day without getting injured. Look after us as far as our health. If we win, great. If we lose, well, as long as no one's hurt, that's great too. And if we win, someone's injured, well, yeah, we won, but guess what? You actually lost. Just saying. As far as the big picture, because one's a game, one's reality, one's life. So it's just a different mindset. Like I said, I'm still a diehard fan. Tomorrow and Saturday, I will be cheering on the Michigan State Spartans as they face off against Boston. That's today, actually. Today and tomorrow, right? Yeah, I'll be facing off. Michigan State will face off against Boston College in hockey, and I look forward to watching that one. I'll be cheering for the green and white through and through. But win or lose, I'm going to look back and say, well, I enjoyed watching the game. It's not a waste of time if my team doesn't win. I enjoyed the experience. Last week, I watched Michigan State get beat pretty bad by Oregon in football. But I loved the experience. I got to spend it with my dad. My mom didn't want to stay up that late for a game. And we had set up a projector outside, and so it's kind of like tailgating and watching the game without being there. I enjoyed it. But enjoying the environment, enjoying the atmosphere is now my focus. So it makes it a lot more special, win or lose. So yeah, that's where I am today on sports, at least. But that's today's Daily Biscuit. Aside from that, we also have coming up here another Singing for a Cause event. I know that on your screen here it says it is the first and third Sunday every month, 11 to 1 p.m. That is correct, typically. And there still will be a requested virtual live performance 2 Sundays from now. But this Sunday, there will also be a requested live virtual performance from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The reason for that is because I had a little bit of a video glitch last Sunday. And by that, I mean it froze up probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes into the feed. Unfortunately, the audio didn't freeze. But I know that by the video freezing, a lot of people didn't tune in as long as um, the previous two performances. So, in fairness to Bluebird Cancer Retreats of West Michigan, I decided that I was going to give them another performance because the whole thing is for them, for me to help raise awareness for them. So, and that'll be put on by Big Andy Media, and it will be available to watch live through the Andy Schiffer uh, band musician page on Facebook. So if you have Facebook and you're following Andy Schiffer or Big Andy Media or Andy's Chomping at the Bit, you will be able to tune into that. Like I said, the Andy Schiffer musician band page is where it'll be streaming from, and I believe I have it set where Big Andy Media will also be hosting it. So that's all I've got for you today. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday, great weekend. See you again on Sunday for that performance.